The Dreamer. For in dreams we enter a world that is entirely our own. Let them swim in the deepest ocean or glide over the highest cloud. Albus Dumbledore, written by J.K. Rowling. Sanhi, they called it, a place of dreamers, visionaries, fantasizers, romantics, and idealists. The town was full of the most fantastical buildings. Houses floated off the ground, suspended in their animation by nothing but a trick of gravity and air. Hovering cars had made travelers simpler and safer for long-distance destinations. The Ellis, the portable screen that all citizens carried with them, had brought connection to a town that was constantly plugged in and creating new technologies. However, these did not compare to the greatest invention of them all, the very invention that the town of Sanhi revolved around. The Uniforenia, shortened to the Unia, the Dream Machine. The Unia was not so much an invention as it was a phenomenon. It was this simple. People came to have their dreams recorded by the machine. But there was only one, so the citizens were told that they would need to enter a drawing if they wanted their dream recorded. The names were drawn randomly, and the chosen ones came to the building for what they would be told were the best sleep of their lives. The Unia was located in a large building. While the machine took up most of the space, small wires fed into this one small and luxurious room. These wires were meant to attach to the forehead, as well as the fingers, to record dreams. Pastel walls, a bed that was fit for a king, blankets that seemed to be made out of clouds themselves, and pillows that covered nearly every space in between were the room's main decadence. It was all people talked about. Chatter filled the streets regarding the invention. The greatest films of the century had produced were based on recorded dreams. An inhabitant of this town was a young woman named Aslan Kudana. Anyone who made her acquaintance found her to be excitable, friendly, and extremely warm-hearted. She always had the wildest and most fantastical dreams, full of action and the most beautiful scenery imaginable. Aslan, more than anyone in town, looked forward to the revelation of the recorded dream. She remembered putting her name into the drawing. It had been over 3 months now since then, and she knew she was bound to be picked soon. Some of those she had seen in the office that very same day had already had their dreams recorded. She would be next, she thought. One afternoon, as she was walking to her hovering home, her bionic dog yapping and barking at her arrival, Aslan received a message on her Ellis. She was to report to the building housing the Unia by week's end. Aslan prepared by reading the most epic of fantasy novels, wanting her dream to be the best it could. She wanted it to be magical. Much as normal people greatly anticipated their weddings or the birth of their first child, the people of Sanhi longed for the magical recording, and Aslan was the biggest dreamer of them all. Her dream would be the most fantastical one ever recorded. Aslan arrived early at the large building. While there were no trumpets or fanfare to greet her, there was a great amount of paperwork. Aslan sat in the office, listening to the hum of the machine, awaiting her arrival. After completing the required forms, which quite frankly made her even more ready for the restful sleep she had been long promised, she was led up the stairs to the room full of blankets and pillows. It was even more than she could have imagined. She was given the option of multiple pajamas to wear. Whichever one she chose, she would be allowed to keep. She chose a fluffy purple top and pants and a fuzzy pair of slippers to wear on her feet, which were more like slipper socks, because before she climbed into the bed, it felt like she was being laid in a soft baby swaddling blanket. There was not an inch of her that did not feel comfortable. There was a technician in the room, and she placed the wires on Aslan's head and wrapped the little sensor around her finger, but Aslan was already falling into sleep. Was that lavender she smelled? It was like... And then she was already asleep. And wham! She was awake. Sweat pulling off her body and gasps heaving out of her lungs, her long black hair sticking to her face and scalp, her hands clammy. A nightmare. No. The one perfect night Aslan had envisioned had been ruined by a nightmare. She couldn't remember all the details, but she distinctly remembered the blood, remembered how it stuck to her fingers and the man who laid at her feet, and... oh no. That dream had been recorded. Those in Sanhi were so wrapped up in their fantasy of recorded dreams that they had forgotten the real reasons why humans were born to keep dreams a secret. Some dreams were meant to be forgotten. Some dreams were meant to be repressed. The dream Aslan had just experienced was one she wanted to forget, but she wouldn't be able to now. It had been recorded. Soon it would be public knowledge. A technician came into the room. "You may come and get your recording now," she said almost robotically. It made Aslan shiver. But she followed the technician and obtained her recording. It was downloaded on her Ellis, and she was free to go, only, "Wait!" someone called from behind her, a young man it seemed. Aslan turned. The man was red in the face, and she could see his panic as he tried to catch up to her. "You need to stay here," he breathed, and then he held up a badge identifying him as a police officer. No one in Aslan's knowledge had ever been questioned by police after a dream recording. In fact, it was uncommon to see police in the day-to-day life of Sanhi. It was a safe place. Aslan froze. "I need to see your Ellis," the police officer added, a bit more composed. Aslan did not know if she should comply, but she decided to do so. She had nothing to hide. She watched in horror as the police officer pulled up the screen recording of her dream. She watched as, on the screen, she was pictured killing a man. She had never seen the man before, and she had no idea who he was. She also knew this was just a dream recording. "Do you recognize this man, ma'am?" The police officer asked Aslan. Aslan shook her head. "This man was found dead, just as he is in the video. Is this you in the video, ma'am?" The police officer pointed to the shadow on the video. She nodded but stuttered, "But this is a dream recording. I didn't kill him." The police officer looked up at the technician, who had been silent until then. "Can you confirm that this is, in fact, a dream recording?" "I can, sir," the technician replied, "though I cannot confirm that this woman did not leave the room. Last night, something went wrong with the Unia's equipment, which is unusual, as you must know. The Unia has never acted so abnormally. So, this woman," he pointed to Aslan, "does not have an alibi." Aslan turned to the technician, crestfallen by her next response. "No, sir." "Is it possible, ma'am," he asked the technician, pointing to Aslan, "for this girl to have been recording a real-life experience?" The technician thought for a moment, drumming her hands against her side. Aslan held her breath. "I suppose it could be," the technician said. "If the cameras of the Unia were hacked, then the cameras outside of the building would have been the source of the feeds instead. The machine has operated like this for years, and there has never been a problem. But yes, it's possible the feed was coming from an outdoor security cameras recording a real-life experience." "Wait," Aslan said, holding up a hand. "You can't be serious. You think I did this?" She pointed to her Ellis, where the gruesome scene played again. "You're going to need to come with us, ma'am," the police officer said. Aslan couldn't believe what she was hearing, and she thought then of the horror of the act which she was accused. Was it possible for her to forget such an awful act? Was it possible she was sleepwalking? Her sleeping pod at home had never recorded her leaving the room in the middle of the night. She couldn't have really done this. Could she? When she didn't move, officers came from every direction surrounding her. How could she prove her innocence? The town of Sanhi had always been known as a rich place of dreams, fantasies, and golden magic. But Aslan had never felt so trapped and so dark, so guilty. If what they were saying was true, she had killed a man in cold blood, a man she didn't even know. His dreams would crumble, his visions would be forgotten. Aslan couldn't tell what was worse, the feeling creeping up inside her of immense terror, or the immense guilt she felt at the possibility of her committing such a vile act. She was handcuffed and taken away. She screamed, telling them there was no way she could do this, but she was shoved into a truck and taken away. The town of Sanhi would not be ruined by the murder of a single man. He would be snuffed from their history. He would never be thought of again. The dreams of the town would not be tarnished. Aslan was never seen again. But one truth remained. She was innocent.